Hello, friends and watchers of illusion, and welcome to another Delboy retrospective and film unboxing. And I've been in reflective mood. Sometimes I have difficulty with choosing a film, but depending on your mood, things can seriously change your mind on a number of things. In my particular life, I've forgotten some of the things that I enjoy because health and life get in the way. And because of my own sort of like problems going on at the moment, um, I decided that I wanted to go back to something that makes me very, very happy. So this particular film that I've chosen, which I'll mention in a moment, has a very, very deep personal meaning to me, and has followed me through quite an awful lot of my cinema life. So what am I talking about here? Well, it's one of probably the greatest double acts you'll ever come across in cinema history, and in this particular instance, I'm talking about Laurel and Hardy. But to do a retrospective and unboxing of Laurel and Hardy would be just one one thing that would be a topic rather than a film. But there has been in recent years a biographic documentary drama that came out in 2018, which grabbed my attention the moment I heard about it. It's called Stan and Ollie, and here is the cover for it, just there. And this is a beautiful box. It's even got a slip cover, although you might get a slip cover or not. It's one of those things where it's very important to some people and not to others. But for me, I'm glad it's there. But you can always tell a good film for me because I've got a number of friends who I like to talk to, and I get a great response from some of them on how Laurel and Hardy has affected their lives. I remember this week when I decided I was going to do this as a retrospective, that I thought about an old friend and decided that I would send him a copy of the film in a hope that it cheered him up as much as this cheered me up this week. So let's get some of the boring stuff out of the way first of all. So this is a film called Stan and Ollie. It stars Steve Coogan and Jon C. Reily. It's directed by Jon S Baird, written by Jeff Pope, and is based upon a book which covers Laurel and Hardy's later years, and in particular the British leg of a tour that they did in the 50s, which is why the book is called Laurel and Hardy, The British Tours, and it's by A.J. Marriot. So what do I really know about Jon S Baird? He's got a pretty good background, but mostly in TV. I've noticed a TV show when I was looking at his background that I did watch in 2015 that was called Vinyl. It was a very good show and I really enjoyed it. Then again, anything that's to do with records and vinyl and goes into the past is going to grab my attention. But this was pretty much one of an early film for this director. But he has gone on in later years and did a film called Tetris, which is again another well-received film. And to be quite honest, I really enjoyed that, and it really talks about the game Tetris and the difficulty it had in getting made and released across the world before it even while it was taking over everybody's lives. Especially if you had a Game Boy and you're of a certain year. So that's a little bit about Jon S Baird. The producer, Jeff Pope, again, a very well-received producer, but more in TV. Looking at his history, the show that comes to mind with him, it was a TV sort of show called The Fattest Man in Britain, and it actually starred Bobby Ball. He was a manager of the fattest man in Britain, and it's a very heartwarming warming film. Lots of things going on in that. The the weird things that happen when you've got a world record, how you try to make money from the Guinness Book of Records, how it affects people that you're managing, your friends around you, and in this particular instance, the persona of the fattest man in Britain, and how it was affecting him in his health, getting in and out of bed, all of those sort of things. Also stereotypical about how fat is perceived. So, you know, what can I say about that other than that is definitely worth a watch, although it is quite far back now, 2009. I think a lot of us know Steve Coogan. Steve Coogan has been around with us for a long time, with Alan Parson in particular. But he's done a number of films just recently. And he returned to television late last year, doing a docudrama on Jimmy Savile, which, to be quite honest, I think engrossed just about the whole of Britain. And if you can actually get to see that or download it or see it in streaming services, definitely do so. It really is a captivating film. But that's nothing to take away from Jon C. Reily. Jon C. Reily is one of those characters where his voice is so distinctive, and he's got one of these sort of like cherub faces. You know, it's like you could almost like squeeze his cheeks, you know, and rub them around. I loved him in Wreck-It Ralph. Absolutely fantastic. But he's, like I say, he's done a number of films. If you look at some of the film history he's done, Boogie Nights, Gangs of New York, The Aviator. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. And I think it was well deserved that he got a nomination for doing this film. But we haven't really talked too much about the film, have we? What I will just reiterate is just what Laurel and Hardy mean to me. I was introduced to Laurel and Hardy through my father. I used to watch Laurel and Hardy on TV in the many shorts that they did during the 30s. And they were even in short skits when I used to go to Saturday Morning Club, which was a children's club at the cinema. They would show many of their short films. In fact, for a long period of time, I thought Laurel and Hardy only did things that were around about 25 minutes in length. It was later on, just before my teens, that I saw the longer films, you know, like Way Out West. And I grew to love those films as well. But I think my real gush of love of them were their shorts, especially one called The Music Box, which is a well-known short of theirs about them trying to deliver a piano to a house that seems to be quite high up a set of stairs. I won't spoil it for you, but it really is a golden gem. So going back to this film, Stan and Ollie, it really is the later half of their life, but it does start off on a sort of a sour note for them. They were part of the Hal Roach Studios, but Hal Roach was, if you've ever read a biography of him or seen a docudrama on Hal Roach, very much a business mogul. He didn't care other than money, and he knew how to manage his greatest stars. He held Stan, Laurel, and Oliver Hardy virtually at gunpoint because he had them on separate contracts. And under these separate contracts, he had them on different timelines. So as they had to renew their contract, the other one would still be in contract, making it very difficult for them to leave the studio. So in 1937, under a renegotiation of their contracts, Stan pushed hard to get more recognition for the work that they were doing, to the point where Stan decided, I'm leaving, and hoped that his friend Ollie would follow suit. Unfortunately, because of this tie down in contract, that didn't happen, and so Stan was a sort of like on his own. Eventually those contracts did end, but it did set up a mini feud of a sort. I think feud would be a difficult one to use as a word, really, because if anybody knows anything about Laurel and Hardy, they rarely had a harsh word to say about themselves. They loved what they did so much that they wanted their persona to come out always in real life as if they were the best of friends. And I think that's why we love them so much. So this film has a hard job to do because it starts off on a sour note. But it does get across the two characters of Stan and Ollie. Stan was very much the person that wrote scripts, gags, the creative force, the person that wanted to work with the directors and the writers to get the very best out of them, where Ollie looked at his film career as a job. As soon as the film finished, all he wanted to do was leave, have the best in life, and play golf and go horse racing, etc., etc. He wanted to experience life for the betterment, probably because of the slum background that he came from. So we roll on into the 50s, and they're looking to try and get their career back on track, because at this particular time they've been making films for over 30 years on and off, mostly off towards the end, and they decided to do a sort of a comeback tour in Britain. But this promotion of this tour was not held very well. At this particular time, there was a rising British star, Norman Wisdom, and people were more interested in that comedic actor than the old Stan and Ollie, or that as much as hell regard people still hold Laurel and Hardy. So they started to do their tour. They brought their wives across, and that sets up in the film a very good double act, because not only have you got a double act in Laurel and Hardy, you've got a double act in their wives. Very much a different tone with the wives, and you can see that they sort of like work together, knowing that their husbands need to stay together, that they love each other very much, and get them motivated into into new films. Unfortunately, the feud that happened in 1937 raised its head at a gala ball that they attended, and some harsh words were said, and they sort of went away on a very sour note. But the next day, where they were at an event for a beauty contest, Ollie suffered a heart attack and was taken immediately to his hotel, where he was cared for by a doctor who basically told him, you can't go on doing this theatre work and this rigorous routine in your condition. And that takes us to possibly around about the middle of the film, and I don't want to say too much more. But what you will get from this film is the essence of what Stan and Ollie were to each other, what they were for their fans, how they were portrayed during that period where they were trying to get back into making movies, and why we love them so much, along with a background knowledge of just sometimes how difficult making films are, and just how money grabbing Hollywood is. So let's get to an opening, shall we? So as I've said before, this is the front cover to it, and my one comes in a slipcase. It's got a nice gold banding around it, quite shiny. This one is a Blu-ray version. There is a DVD edition. I've seen this lots of times, by the way, and my one is therefore wrapped. So we're going to open this. Got my handy scissors available. There we go. Just get this cellophane off. Get rid of this rubbish for a moment. And you get the standard sort of like blue casing, but it works really well with the white and gold. You open it up and you just get a standard disc, which is a shame because it could do with so much more if they did a special edition of this. Now, I did check, and this was filmed in high definition, but has so far not been given a 4K release. I find that criminal. But what I do know of this particular picture quality in this particular release is it is exceptional. The film stock that they've used is pretty good, and the colors are quite vibrant. It is supposed to be set in the 50s, so you can tell that there is a sort of like a dullness to a lot of the backgrounds and sights, but the gala scene, you can see that they bump up the colors no end, and this doesn't distract from the fact that John C. Reily had to use lots of prosthetics, fat suits and so forth. You can't see the seams, even though it is of a high definition source. So my particular opinion of this film, it is definitely a thumbs up. It's one of those films that if you've got any interest of this period of time, any interest at all in Laurel and Hardy, it is definitely a bookend film to go with your complete Laurel and Hardy collection. And just speaking of that Laurel and Hardy collection, it's been out for so long now that you can buy that collection for under £30. In fact, I've seen it in many sales where it's just over the £20 mark, and it incorporates all of the films. It is in eco packaging now. The one I have is in deluxe packaging. But what we have to understand about that is you shouldn't be all just a snob about things like this. The discs that are inside the eco edition are exactly the same as the ones that were in the high-end edition. And therefore, we should think about our hobby and go, it's about the films, guys. So basically, I think everybody should go out and rush and get that box set. I don't know how many there are in stock. I don't know whether they ever going to take it out of print, but it's a definite thing. When it comes to the music of Stan and Ollie, it's done by a recording artist I don't know too much about, Rolf Kent. But what I will say about it is that there is a nice main theme, and the end titles is very much a strings and woodwind type of affair. Very slow as it brings up the epitaph of where Laurel and Hardy went after this film ends, and then turns into a more comedic, fun melody for the credits, where there's an overlay of Coogan and Reily doing the dance from Way Out West. And the music really fits in quite well. But I think the best music I've ever heard in a Laurel and Hardy thing is their documentary that they did, which was Laurel and Hardy, The Magic Behind Their Lives, which is shown an awful lot on Sky Documentaries. It's 2 hours long. You can get it on DVD. But the music in there is so sentimental that I can hear it now and hum it. In some ways, I wish they'd have got that musical director to actually have composed the score to this film. But that's where I'm going to end this little capsule review. Stan and Ollie gets a big thumbs up. It's absolutely criminal that it's not on 4K. You can get it very cheap now on Blu-ray, even cheaper on DVD. You're looking at below £6-7. And from that, it's worth every penny. And with that, I'm going to say salute. Wish you all a good time. And here's to the next one. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.